always a blessing when the green screen shows up. Dun-dun-dun. Let's see if the flip works this morning, too. That would be a double blessing. All right. Check it out. Check it out. For those of you watching on the replay, go ahead and screenshot. And fortunately for you, you don't get the comments for the replay. But for you who are here today, go ahead and screenshot it as well while we get our morning breathing in. As always, you are doing and taking these 3 deep breaths because you are regulating the emotion center in your brain to let the amygdalas know, limbic system, hey, we're just learning. We're just learning. You're also calming the brain down to let the prefrontal cortex send it a notification that you're getting ready to use it today. So on my count of 3, you're going to inhale and exhale 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. Good morning, Lola. All right, guess who's back? Good morning. I am Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers. I am the daughter of Leslie Darnell Thomas, the granddaughter of Arthur Jethro Evelyn II, and the great-granddaughter of Levi Thomas. Welcome to your morning mental workout. Today is Thinking Thursday. You will need a second device. If you need to go and grab one, you have time because I'm going to review the neurological information. Today is Thinking Thursday, and we will be utilizing Curious Questions, a playlist on my YouTube channel. Good morning, Regina. Nola, just give me a thumbs up when you've made that change on the homepage of the YouTube channel. That will be great as well because I'm in my Gmail right now, so I can't see the channel. All right, so as always, agua, vasa, water, liquid libations, that liquid gold. Ensure that you have some water with you because while you believe that you're just sitting and potentially taking notes, your brain is operating. It is actually getting a mental workout. And so as a result, you can become dehydrated just sitting here, taking notes, listening to me. Okay, so today I decided, and normally when we do Thinking Thursday, we have riddles and all these other activities, and so I tell you the brain benefits. But today we're just going to do curious questions. And what I made the decision to do was to really understand what curious questions do in the brain neurologically. So I'm going to review some of that information. Also had a conversation with Chat regarding my thoughts on curious questions, and I was interested to see what was currently available on the internet based upon extended search that Chat had to do. And then after that, once I finish telling you that information, we're going to go ahead, go to the YouTube channel and start answering curious questions so that you will understand the actual benefit to answering curious questions. So what regions of the brain are used to answer curious questions? Answering curious questions activates a network of brain regions associated with curiosity, exploration, reasoning, and learning. And so here's a breakdown of the key brain regions involved. The prefrontal cortex, especially the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and it engages critical thinking, reasoning, problem solving, and decision making while exploring answers. So every time you answer a curious question, not a closed-ended question, are you hot, are you cold, are you hungry, but a curious question, something that makes you have to go and start thinking, reasoning, problem solving, or decision making while you're getting an answer, you're going to enact or tap into the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Next is the anterior cingulate cortex, commonly referred to as the ACC. It detects cognitive conflict and uncertainty, and it flags something that doesn't fit, fueling curiosity and the desire for resolution. So it's like, this doesn't match. I need the answer to this. I have been searching for the answer as to why neuroscientists and psychiatrists have not merged together prior to me saying, hey, we need to merge together to not only focus on the diseased brain, but how to maximize and capitalize off of the 86 billion neurons that we have. And I realized the other day in my curious question, probably last week, that negativity bias is stopping them as well. So that's why it hasn't happened until now. Next is the orbital frontal cortex. And so it evaluates new information and rewards value of discovering new answers. Curiosity feels rewarding. So people are always like, oh my goodness, look at the kids. They're so curious. Look at this toddler just putting stuff in his mouth, asking all these questions. And we go, why as a kid? And then as we learned a couple days ago, with self-actualization, when you turn 9 years old, everybody starts trying to turn you into somebody else. And so you can't ask questions no more unless it's about the category that they put you in. And so you stop being curious. And then if you get a couple bad teachers and they tell you don't ask no questions, that's not going to be on the test, why you're asking all these questions, then you just stop asking questions. And if enough people make you feel bad enough for being curious, you never seek to ask questions. And then that's how people can control you, because you're just going to take the information in. Your cognitive thought is not going to be strengthened. And now you're just going to be like, well, they said it, so I'm going to do it. So don't do that. Next is the hippocampus, and it searches your memory and encodes new information while integrating it with prior knowledge. So every time you learn something new, the hippocampus says, oh, I know where to put that, and I'm going to add it to that. And if you haven't learned something new, then it's going to take it and start a new file system and say, oh, okay, we learned about the brain, Dr. Donna, cool, got it. Let me open up a file. Now, every time I learn something about the brain, it just adds to it. And so if you look at information that I had 10 months ago when I started studying the brain, is much more advanced now, but I still have that information as well. And in fact, I've watched older videos. I was still talking about the brain, unbeknownst to me that I would end up having this be my plight every day. Next is the ventral striatum, and it includes the nucleus accumbens, and it activates the dopaminergic reward system when curiosity is triggered and satisfied. So it answers bring internal satisfaction. So when you are operating the dopaminergic reward system, that's a neural pathway, and it's primarily in the mesolimbic pathway. And it gives you the ability to have that release of dopamine when you ask the question and then get the answer. Your release is this nice dopamine, this healthy dose of dopamine in the neurotransmitters and that synaptic connection. And then we have the default mode network, which we spend most of our time. Anytime we're by ourselves, we are in the default mode network. And what this does is it supports internal reflection and the generation of possible answers, especially when the mind is actively exploring or thinking. Okay, so if you're just out there walking, exploring, looking, sitting, and just saying, okay, I'm gonna just sit and see what comes up. Now you'll have the ability to get answers that you didn't think about. And I've said that this concept works as well. If you find yourself just stumped and stuck, people say, oh, I have writer's block, I can't think straight. Go do a routine task. Because remember, when you're doing a routine task, the mind could potentially wander because you're in your default mode network. So you know how to take a shower, you know how to wash your dishes. It doesn't take cognition to do that. And so what happens is you start washing the dishes, and then the mind will begin to ponder and think. Next thing you know, you have your answer. So take a shower, wash, do some laundry, some type of brush your teeth or something. And that's how the answer will show, because now you're not, I'm going to have this answer right now. So you're doing something else, and then the answer will magically appear in your amazing brain. And next is and finally is the temporal parietal junction, and that's where the temporal lobe and the parietal lobe meet. And it helps perspective taking and integrating multiple pieces of information, especially important in open-ended or socially embedded questions. So open-ended questions are questions that you can't answer with a yes or no. So again, the brain regions are the prefrontal cortex, the ACC, the orbital frontal cortex, the hippocampus, the ventral striatum, and including the nucleus accumbens, the default mode network, and the temporal parietal junction. Now here's the other thing. Curious questions brain circuit. So here's a typical neural pathway when answering a curious question. So curiosity is triggered. And so the ACC and the OFC detect a gap in knowledge. So when I ask you a question, you go, oh, I'd answer to that. So now exploration begins. And what happens next is that the prefrontal cortex and the temporal parietal junction engage in brainstorming or hypothesizing. If you've ever taken a 30 daily challenge with me, it's 2 different playlists. I got like 700 of them. And so what happens is the simple questions like, who invented the doorknob? Who did invent the doorknob? You know what I'm saying? Who invented shoes? Who invented Uno? There are all these curious questions. So I have curious questions, 13 playlists of curious questions, about 6 or 8 playlists of poll questions, and then 2 separate 365 daily questions. So it's a lot of questions, a couple hundred questions for you just to go, as I think it was Arsenio Hall that used to say things that make you go, on his show. But now you're exploring. And then you do a memory search. So the hippocampus retrieves relevant knowledge. But if it doesn't have relevant knowledge, like you're like, so who did invent the doorknob? Hell, I don't know. I know I use doorknobs, but damn, somebody did have to invent the doorknobs. Then you might go, well, who invented the door? And who invented the door? And for you, Lola, who invented the panels around the doors? And what kind of doors are there? So you take yourself on this journey, and now you have all this new information from this one thing of who invented the doorknob. Then it's rewarded with feedback. So the striatum fires dopamine when insights are formed. So you get the answer, and striatum's like, yeah, this is great. And now you just go down that path. And then next and finally, the learning is encoded. And so the hippocampus updates with new understanding. So if I think back to when I was in the 8th grade and I had my little brain for my science project, and I only had 4 areas of the brain color coded on my drawing, that was the beginning. And now we way past that. But that was the beginning of me saying the brain. Let me explore that with some cauliflower and some food coloring. So the neuroscience insight is this: curiosity isn't just about seeking answers. It's a full brain experience that strengthens your memory, enhances rewards, and increases your cognitive flexibility. And we know that cognitive flexibility is part of the executive function of the brain, and that allows you to adjust and adapt to situations. So if you have a goal and you start working on it and the strategy doesn't work, cognitive flexibility allows you to adjust the strategy. The goal stays the same, but you adjust the strategy so that you can accomplish the goal. So before we go into the Dr. Donna insights for the curious questions, what questions do you have? Thought-provoking, oh my goodness. And if it's clear for curious questions and why it's necessary for you to actually answer questions that you don't necessarily have the answer to immediately. I got to do the brain bit first, but yes. So what questions do you have initially? If none, it's okay to say clear, and I will keep it pushing. Regina says it's clear. And then Nola, did you update the playlist on YouTube? It's clear. All right. Here is the brain bit for curious questions. Curious question lights up your brain. When you explore a question, your brain activates a powerful network of regions, and that's what I said. The prefrontal cortex allows you to think and plan. The hippocampus allows you to retrieve and store knowledge. Well, good morning, Mr. Hook. Welcome back. We have a world traveler in our midst, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Hook was just doing global, worldwide. He went on a whole journey. I told y'all last week to go check out his stories. He had an amazing experience and attended a fabulous Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous wedding as well. So good morning and welcome back. Hippocampus, retrieve and store knowledge. Anterior cingulate cortex, detect the unknown. And the ventral striatum rewards discovery with dopamine. The temporal parietal junction integrates perspectives. And the orbital frontal cortex evaluates and explores possibilities. So Mr. Hook, you let us know when you want to give us a summary of your trip. You just got back today. So remember what did I do on my summer vacation? Since school is starting back, you can, tomorrow or Saturday, you can give us some takeaways or learnings that you had. I'm not going to put you on the spot today, but just let me know what day you want to let us know what your takeaways were from your amazing trip. Okay. Every time you ask and answer a question, you're rewiring your brain for greater insight, agility, and learning. Ask questions. Be that person in the class. I used to be like, I don't understand. I didn't make it pissing people off. I don't care. I need the information. I will ask a 4-year-old a question if they got the answer. I don't really care who got the information. If I need the information, I'm coming to get it because I need it. Okay, so give me a second. I had me and chat went on a whole journey this morning before I could get to these answers. Okay, so Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers on Curious Questions. I like asking chat about me, not from an arrogant perspective, because it allows me to see what's available in the event that there is a gap. I can now put other information out there so that gap is now closed, and my teachings and real leader principles and things of that nature, neuromobility, are out there correctly. So Chat and I went on a journey. Chat said, hey, it's not, the question isn't there, but here are some other options for you. Ended up talking about my morning mental workouts, and this is where we are. So Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers on Curious Questions. From the morning mental workouts, here are the real leader principles on and curious questions. So curious questions as leadership tools. So Dr. Donna uses curious questions to challenge default thinking and spark cognitive flexibility. That's the objective of the curious questions. That default thinking, nope, you are going to need cognitive flexibility, which you're going to find out when we get to this playlist. These questions are often designed to help leaders and professionals self-audit their mindsets and their empowerment. So these questions are self-reflective. Again, this is personal accountability. So the questions are designed for you to answer them for yourself. Hence the curious questions at the end of every live. What did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? Next is reflection over reaction. Reflection over reaction. Instead of reacting, curious questions prompt people to pause and ask, why do I think this way? Why do I think this way? So yesterday we had an amazing experience. I think it was yesterday, where people were just coming and back and forth and with each other, being kind of disrespectful, even after I requested to be respected. And they were thinking the way they were thinking. And I was saying, hey, that's not the way you think. It's okay. You could think something else. But all of you who started this year, you are now thinking in a different way because of curious questions. And is the belief or behavior serving me or others? And the question that I've added is, does this benefit my brain? Does it benefit my brain? And number one, and most importantly, is what am I avoiding? Personal accountability, when you are actually doing the real work day in and day out, you're going to have to attack your fear. Because by taking risks, you definitely are going to find out what it is that I am avoiding and why am I avoiding it. And these mental pauses activate executive functions in the brain. I got my other brain t-shirt on. Prefrontal cortex, increasing clarity and reducing emotional hijacking. So when you start having this default mode network experience all day long as you're interacting and not interacting with people, you keep strengthening your prefrontal cortex because you keep asking curious questions, and now your brain regions. Hopefully I don't go away. YouTube, act right. So if you look at the one in the center, those are all the brain regions that are being impacted when you are answering curious questions. The brain regions that you're using to answer curious questions. All of that is taking place for you with a simple question. Now, next is, so you want to reflect instead of reacting. Let me just answer these questions for myself. And daily mental alignment. So me, encourages incorporating curious questions every morning to align with your purpose, integrity, responsibility, and emotional clarity. When you have emotional clarity, you are regulating your emotions. And that's what we talked about yesterday, wiring your brain for emotional regulation. So when you are incorporating curious questions, you're going to be thinking about purpose, integrity, responsibility, and emotional clarity. And then repetition builds mental strength. So repeating thought-provoking questions daily rewires your neural circuits and deepens your insight. So an example question would be, what uncomfortable truth am I willing to face today to grow tomorrow? What uncomfortable truth? Y'all have seen me ugly cry, cute cry, get angry, drag a couple people in the comment section and everything in between, because I'm on day 641. Y'all know how many trolls I done had to deal with on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube in 641 days of going live. It's a lot. It's extremely uncomfortable because I can't see nobody and everybody can see me. but I wake up every day and push this live button, and come what may, everybody gonna be able to learn how to use their brain. And then the neuroscience insights, as often highlighted, are curious questions engage dopaminergic circuits in the brain, making learning more rewarding. You all wouldn't keep coming back here every day if you weren't learning and it wasn't rewarding. So you get your natural dopamine boost. All of you hear the same information, but you take away what you need in order for you to succeed in your day, in your life, and build your own neural pathways. And what this does, these curious questions reduce ruminating and stimulate neuroplasticity by creating new thought patterns. So that's the benefit of learning about your brain, of your cognitive fitness every single day. Your mental workout is you are reducing the amount of time in your default mode network where you are daydreaming and mind wandering, and instead you are reflecting and strengthening neural pathways, new neural pathways. Now, it's at this moment that, and again, if you don't have your second device, go gather your second device because we're getting ready to go. Nola, I don't think I got a thumbs up from you. Did you update the homepage on YouTube? Thank you for that, crafted eye candies. Okay, she did. Thank you. All right. You can take care of your brain health by starting to watch these questions, watch these channels. So that question is, oh, you need a second device because we're getting ready to watch videos of curious questions. So we're about to watch and answer curious questions. So you know how we do on Thinking Thursday or Wired Wednesday where we watch videos? That's what we're getting ready to do. There you go. So to the person that said, how can I take care of my brain health? I'm studying 12 hours a day for job preparation. That's a loaded question. But I will say this. Number one, you need to hydrate, because if you are studying 12 hours a day, your brain is dehydrated. It's 75% water. As a result of that, you need to be hydrated. And if you say I'm thirsty, you're already 2% dehydrated. You also need to do a Pomodoro technique. So you can look that up. Pomodoro technique. And what happens is you take time, 10 to 25 minutes at a time, study, and then take a 5 to 10 minute break. What that's going to do is actually allow the brain time to rest, and then you'll come back and be able to learn that information better. You need to eat properly. So if you are eating junk food, you need to switch, and you actually need to eat healthy foods, and you need to eat 3 complete meals. You also need to exercise, because what happens is you have your BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factors, and what happens is that's a release in the brain that strengthens the neural pathway for what it is that you're learning. Secondarily, this is old school. If you need to learn, I used to make these all the time. They're 3x5 cards with this ring on it, and I took them wherever I went. Now, if your learning material is digital, then you can take that with you as well. And you need to be taking sleep. You need to be going to sleep and taking naps. So if you're tired and you're using caffeine to, I'm stepping on your toes. If you're taking caffeine, stop. You can do half calf, decaf. But what happens is there is adenosine, which is a natural hormone. When you are awake, the adenosine is low. When you are sleepy, the adenosine is high. So if you find yourself studying and you say, oh, no, I got to stay awake. Let me go get some caffeine or energy drink. You just fucked your brain up, because there is a natural hormone that says you're sleepy, go to sleep. So take a 20-minute power nap and then get back up again. If you can take a longer nap, take a longer nap. But when you take that caffeine at the end of the day, in the middle of the night, you just messed up your natural brain's ability to fall asleep naturally. And so then what's going to happen is you're going to be tired. Now you're going to take a sleep aid. Now you done messed it up again. So half calf, decaf, no more energy drinks. You're going to have it's going to be bad because I had to give up caffeine. But those are some things that you can do while you're working on this job. When you get the job, you just need to come back and learn how to use your brain. Okay, Regina is stepping away. All right, so dang it. When she comes back, I'll remind her of this. But because I told her I was going to discuss this on the live today. But the point is, let me know if I've answered your question. So here's the thing. I learned this in my neuroscience class yesterday or the day before. My days are blending together. But here's what's taking place. So there was all this research about is neurogenesis possible in human beings, in mammalians? I'm sounding like my professor now. Okay. So up until in 1986, the research says no, there's no way that neurogenesis is possible. Ain't gonna happen. Let it go. It's not gonna happen. You cannot create new neurons functionality or structurally. It's not happening. And then all the way in 1997. So some of us were here in 1997. Some of us was in our 20s, 30s, and 40s in 1997. And here's what took place. There was actual research that said, nah, that ain't true, because they had new microscopes that could look at it through the staining. And then they realized, yes, we can. Yes, we can. So in 1998, we found out that in certain brain regions, you actually can create new neurons. And one of those regions is the hippocampus. So in the hippocampus, you can create new neurons. And here's how it's done. New neurons are created when you have something challenging to do. So if you have something challenging to do, let's say you go on a vacation or you go to a retreat, and this is why if you go to a retreat, what you learn doesn't sustain itself. So you go on a retreat, you go walking on hot coals with Tony Robbins and whatever, and you got it, and now neurons are firing and you can do it, and then you go back home and it doesn't work anymore because it wasn't sustainable. But when you challenge yourself consistently, over time, the brain has to respond to that challenge in learning in the hippocampus, and now you have more information. So curious questions challenge you to go find answers. And when you consistently do that, you keep learning. So learning is a superpower. It actually is a superpower. Challenging learning. Don't just keep learning how to do something novel like dancing. Okay, I'm gonna just learn how to do the cha-cha slide. That's not enough. Okay. Literally challenging yourself in a learning situation. So the fact that when I started 10 months ago and I came out as a nerd and the information that I had was small compared to the information that I have now, it's because I keep challenging myself. So that is the importance of ABLing. Always be learning, because the hippocampus is like, all right, bet you want to learn something. That's why my GPA, the harder school got, the better my GPA got. I was barely a 3.0 in high school and undergrad, and by the time I finished my doctorate, I had a 3.95. Doggone qualitative statistical research took my ass out. I got a B, and that's a hard ass class. So anyway, the method that I'm saying is it works. So the more you actually, now will you experience cognitive overload? Absolutely. Absolutely. Your brain gonna be like, hold up, wait, why is it? And then the hippocampus is gonna say, don't worry about it. Nucleus accumbens, and then you're gonna get the dopaminergic. That doggone dopamine is gonna get released. You're gonna say, ooh, I'm feeling smart. I'm feeling good. Let me get some more of that. And then you're gonna challenge yourself some more. There was a book, How Rich People Think, and How to Be a Billionaire. When I first started my book challenge 11 years ago, it took me 3 weeks to read that book, How to Be a Billionaire. Teeny tiny font. I didn't understand the concepts. Then I just started reading it every couple years, and I'm like, that's simple. I got it. Science of Getting, not Science of Getting Rich. The Art of War in 2009, a colleague of mine told me to read that book. Okay, so it took me from 2009 to 2014 before I could complete reading The Science of Getting Rich. Not The Science of Getting Rich, The Art of War. Now it's my favorite book. And I can read it from the text that's translated into English. I don't need all them explanations. I can tell you attack by stratagem, attack by fire. When the enemy, when you want to appear weak, appear strong. When you want to appear strong, appear weak. All of that. And everything in it. It's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. It is my favorite book, and I read it once a year along with Who Moved My Cheese. But when you keep learning, the hippocampus rewards you with new neurons as long as it's challenging and sustainable, and you will learn more and more and more and more. So if your third grade teacher told you was dumb and you couldn't read, and now you over here with 11 years worth of book challenges, and you got a doctorate, you wrote a dissertation, and you wrote a book too, you go nah, 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 nah. Ha, ha, ha. Joke's on you. Hippocampus gave me new neurons. So that is why learning is important. That is why you have to challenge yourself. And so let me look at this. Thank you so much. It's very helpful. Totally satisfied, and we'll follow your suggestions. My questions be having questions. I want to get it off. Adderall. Do you have any advice? Much appreciated. Okay, Crafted Eyes Candy. My daughter is on a live right now, and she has ADHD, ADD, and a small touch of autism sprinkled on top of that, and she is on no meds. And so what takes place is it's in your daily. So you're just going to have to attend the lives, participate, and start wiring your brain differently. I'm not a medical provider. I have a doctorate in education, so I would never tell you to stop taking your medication, but you need to create new neural pathways in order for that to stop. And so she has never been medicated and is high functioning. And if we didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. I mean, she does some stuff that 80 people with ADHD can look and say, yes, she got it. But yes. And so what happens is you have 86 billion neurons, and every neuron has the ability to create 10,000 synaptic connections. So your brain, even your ADHD brain, has the ability to create 860 trillion synaptic connections. And so what's happening for you is the GABA receptors. And so GABA is a neurotransmitter. And what's happening is it inhibits the hyperactive behavior in normal brains. But for you all, it's low. And so what happens is it starts to pop off. It doesn't stop you from doing things that you don't want to do. And part of that is the right amygdala will do what it wants to do. And there's inhibition control in the prefrontal cortex. So what you have to do is wire your brain so that the prefrontal cortex is stronger than the other regions of the brain where the ADHD appears to be stronger. So when you strengthen the prefrontal cortex, you weaken the right and left amygdala, and then you also give the brain balance so the GABAs actually inhibit you from doing things that you would naturally do. But it also allows you to focus and become strategic so that need for that Adderall dissipates immensely. So let me know if I've answered your question. Okay, thumbs up for everybody that has a second device, because we're going to, now that we're half an hour in, we're going to start answering curious questions ourselves. So thumbs up. You need to be on the home page of the YouTube channel. And so hopefully you can see it. It should look like, trying not to have the selfie light in the way, the home page of the YouTube channel, and it should look like that. So we're curious questions, and we're playlist number 9. And how this works is we're going to ask, just start with, what are you willing? And you'll read the question, ... a brain or something to let me know that you're finished with the question. And then you're just going to type your answers in. And again, now we understand all the brain regions that we're using to answer these questions. And today's goal is for you to start firing new neurons and wiring them so that your curious questions neural pathway can be started and strengthened. So thumbs up if you are ready. Lola's ready. Kevin's ready. Regina stepped away. So homepage of the YouTube channel, Curious Questions Level 9. First question is, what are you willing? And I haven't watched all of these, so I don't know what they are. I was in Curious Questions 11 of 6, and then I decided that I was going to do 9 instead. Okay, so go ahead and get started. Watch the video and then ... a brain something so I know you're finished watching the video, and then answer the question. I'm going to mute my microphone because I need to see what this question is. Okay, start now. Kevin said, I'm willing to sacrifice the old me for a better me. And Lola said, no, because of religious reasons. I understand that answer. And my answer will be popularity. I'm cool with being unpopular for the right reasons. So I was cool with people thinking I was mean in ROTC, or I'm sacrificing my popularity at Frito Lay because I'm a safety advocate. I'm gonna do the right thing in my family. And Nola said losers. Because yeah, I know that when people learn, adults learn how to use their brain, they're going to be forever changed. So it's okay if people come and troll and do whatever it is and think that I'm just that you're doing too much. Ain't nobody got time for that. All of that nonsense. Okay, cool. Because I know once your amygdala weakens and your prefrontal cortex strengthens, you are going to do things differently. So I'm okay with looking like, well, why she got that old graphic and why she should have. Okay, it's not Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is a show that I use to say I'm gonna keep everything simple. He used puppets, and he had when he in the imaginary town, he was never there. He was only in the real part, and he was on the air for 30 years, and he addressed a lot of different things as a result of that very, very simple format. This is something that I can maintain independently. I don't need a big old giant staff or anything else. It's just me and part of my progeny helping me do this process. So yes, I'm willing to sacrifice being unpopular because popularity changes, just like pop culture. Hence, same thing. All right, next one is what is a phrase? What is a phrase? What is a phrase? Regina's answer is keep it real. Good morning, Imagine Lee. Lola said, what goes around comes around. Kevin said, hold on, let me call you right back. And we addressed that while you were gone, Kevin, and I forgot. Keep your word. I think that's, yeah. So if you, 2 days ago, we talked about keeping your word and why people say that and what happens neurologically when they don't keep their word. Nola, customer, you sure you know what you're doing? You still look wet behind the ears. Yeah, I got to show it because you said wet behind the ears. So do y'all see it? Yeah. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, you still look wet behind the ears. But Nola's, in case y'all can't see it, customers, you sure you know what you're doing? You still look wet behind the ears. Still, and when she first started, they asked her, should she be in school? Your mom know where you at? Yeah, she in the car. She knows exactly where I am. Yeah, as long as I owe you money, you ain't never gonna be broke. I'm like, yes, I am. You ain't, I don't have my money. You got it. Okay. The next one is what do you value? Yes, what did you value is the next one. And some of these don't have sound. Regina, your answer is health, mental, physical, and spiritual. Lola said, now my peace. Nola said, time. Mine is my brain. Without it, none of what I do on a daily basis is able to even be here. Been here, be here, gonna be here. My amazing brain. Please use it. Oh, this is a scarf from my thing. And then Regina, while we're answering what I needed, a good night's rest. Yes. And so just for, because I told Regina yesterday in my follow-up to her for her thing that I would talk about the hippocampus. So what I learned in the class yesterday or day before yesterday was this, Regina. The research up until 1986 said it's not possible for you to create new neurons. Not possible. It wasn't until 1997 that the research actually discovered that you actually can actually can create new neurons, and in two specific areas, but the main area is in the hippocampus. So what happens is when you learn something, the hippocampus creates new neurons for you to learn that. And so it could be temporary for days or it could be long lasting. So let's say you go on a retreat or a weekend where you're just at a conference and you got all this information, you hyped, you got it, it's connecting, then you get back home and it's not connecting anymore because it's not sustainable. But what happens long term is the reason why curious questions are effective is because they have you answering questions about yourself and the hippocampus stores it. But when you keep learning, that's where the learning takes place, is in the hippocampus. You keep getting new neurons. So the more challenging you learn, the more new neurons you create. So the example I used was that when I was in high school, my GPA wasn't that great, but the harder classes got, the harder the degree got, the better my GPA became. And if you look at me from 10 months ago, starting to learn about the brain when I was just using Very Well Mind, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, and Johns Hopkins, that information was good. But now look at how much more information I learned in 10 months because I keep getting new neurons. So that's why you want to ask questions. That's why you want to keep learning, because the hippocampus is, hey, you need some neurons? Oh, you're doing something more challenging? Here's some more neurons. Here's some more neurons. So it's basically the neuron bank. So you just keep making withdrawals and you just keep getting smarter and smarter as it keeps being more challenging. So you have to challenge yourself, and then those new neurons are just going to keep being produced. Okay, the next question is pictures of yourself. Pictures of yourself. That's great information about the hippocampus and the new neurons. Got to keep learning. Exactly. Exactly. No's answer is no. My answer is no with a caveat. We used to have pictures of us all over the whole house, and we decided as a family to take those pictures down. There are two pictures displayed. One is my fifth grade photo that is on my dresser, and it is to inspire me in the work that I'm doing. So the guts that it took to put that suit on in the fifth grade in the hood. And then there is a picture of my baby photo because my father pushed my mother down the stairs when she was 7 months pregnant with me. I'm lucky to be here right now. Yeah. And then my sister fed me sausage when I was 6 months pregnant and I almost suffocated and died. So that baby photo is there because I wouldn't even be here today. I didn't even know that was about to happen. So the little baby photo is on the table as soon as you come in the house. But those two photos represent to and through. And we don't need to see no other photos of us in the house because we know what we look like. And I get it if you have photos of family members up there, because if your grandkids or children or siblings or something, yeah, 6 months old, she fed me sausage. My sister's 3 years, basically 1,755 days older than me. Um, you can't have pictures of anything that has eyes. Wow, I did not know that. Know that, Lola. That's interesting. So we just have those two photos, and then we have a mixed media art. Yeah. So when I was 6 months old, I was crying. My sister was 3.5, a little bit more than that. She's asking my mother, "Why am I crying?" We live with my grandparents, so my mother says she's hungry. So my sister decided to go get some sausage that my grandmother was making, and she stuffed them in my mouth. And then my mother heard me crying, and then didn't hear me crying anymore. And she found out that my sister was trying to suffocate me. Now, the first day I came, you would say, "Oh, that's a 3-year-old mistake." But the first day I came home, she asked my mother and father, when was I going back? So, and if you know my sister, she was smart at 3.5. She did that shit on purpose. So, yeah, those are the only two pictures that currently are in our household and displayed. Who knew? But anyway, the baby photo is there just because that little baby has been to and through in order to be here sitting in front of y'all today. I told y'all it's about 8 times, almost that. To include that. Um, anyway, next question is, and thank you for that information, Lola, because I was not aware of that. So you learn something new every day. See, curious question, and now I have new information. All right. So if your attention was money is the next video. If your attention was money. And now that I cried, I got to blow my nose. So I'm going to mute and turn the thing the other way. If your attention was money. And Kevin, you don't have to say guilty is your house. You can put up what you want. We go to people's houses all the time and they have pictures of themselves. Same playlist, Lola. So what happens is, remember, push that down arrow. Let me go back out and come back in to show you again. It's that once you get past. So remember, oh, shit. Okay. Remember that down little arrow right there on the screen? So press that down little arrow and it'll reveal more videos to you. Kevin says, no, I wouldn't give it away as easily. Great question and thought provoking. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. Because we know you and your money, Kevin. You know where every tenth of a pence is at. All right. Regina said, attention to money makes me think about intention to money as a resource. My intention is to provide comfortably for myself. And when I pay attention to money, I'm very selective about giving away. Yes. And you don't, and one thing I say is that people will definitely guard their money, but then waste their time. So people will waste years, but would not give you $20. You can't have my money. This is my money. And you done gave a sorry ass spouse 15 years of your life, but I can't get $20 from you. You know, every player on the Pittsburgh Steelers because you a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but don't ask you for $50. You are not going to give away anybody can't have your season tickets, but you didn't. The Steelers need you to win. Okay. And then Lola, let me know if you've gotten to the video, if your attention was money on that. So yes, as again, these questions are designed, and no two questions are alike on purpose in any of the playlists. And the curious questions are me asking questions, and then the poll questions can be anybody, a Snapchat lens or any of that. And the reason for these questions was because you can use these questions. Let's say you're in management and you're looking for icebreakers and you're just tired of the same ones that the company gives you. You can actually use these. If you go to a business networking event and you're responsible for people having to interact with each other before the event starts, you actually can use these questions. If you are at a family event, a family reunion, or anything, and you want to change the energy of it and have people start to talk and get your defenses down, these are great questions to ask, because now people don't have, oh no, I'm not going to, okay, Regina, okay, I don't know, I'm not going to answer that question because, well, what are your hobbies? Typical question. But if you ask it in a different way, then it will change the trajectory. So Lola, were you able to access the question? I don't want to leave to go to the next question if you couldn't access this one, because the next one is right next to it. Okay, she may have gotten kicked out. All right, the next question is, what is a word that? Okay, it's that little arrow. What is a word that? But I understand. What is a word that? What is a word that? And so what I will say, Lola, just to keep you on track with everybody else, the question was, if your attention was money, would you give it away so freely? If your attention was money, would you give it away so freely? that was my word, Nola. Okay. Shit. And you said no. Kevin said February. Rhythm was actually my word. What I will say is another one that I do have to look up is worst and worse. So I do have to look up the meaning of those when I'm typing it to create a post, because I do get those two mixed up. So I will say worst and worse, even though I know how to spell both of them, the context into which to use them. And then Lola, the next question is, what is a word that no matter how many times you look it up, you still have to look up how to spell it every time you use the word? So what's a word that every time you use it, you got to look it up to make sure you're spelling it correctly? And rhythm is Nola's, February is Kevin's. And what Nola and I discovered with rhythm is it should be THEM. If rhythm had an E in it, we would spell it correctly. I know it would be rhythm, but it would be so much easier. But that THM sitting right there, all those consonants, And think about it, it only has one vowel in it. It's a 2-syllable word. So yeah, money to me is a survival mode. Be willing to help others, but not put myself to where I cannot help myself. Okay, Sean. All right. Next question is, how do you build yours? How do you build yours? So we have 2 more questions, this one and one more. How do you build yours is the next question. Yeah, I have a challenge spelling too, Lola. That's why I was in the 5th grade reading at a 3rd grade level. And I have a 3 degrees and I still have trouble spelling. So let me explain to you why that's happening. So in your occipital lobe in the rear of your brain, they have what's called the orthographic processing center. And so that's where you start to form letters and letters into words, words into sentences, sentences into paragraphs, and then paragraphs into pages and books. So if you are struggling with spelling, it's happening in the orthographic processing center. So even though I have 3 degrees, there are words I still cannot spell with 3 degrees. So that's what is taking me so long to become fluent in languages, because as soon as it's time to spell Auf Wiedersehen, I'm like, Guten Morgen, I can actually spell that. But as soon as mantequilla is butter in Spanish. Don't ask me how to spell that. I know I want some mantequilla, and if I see it, I can pronounce it. But on my own, I ain't never want to spell and bee to this day. So instead of me not being able to spell smaller words, as I learned more, my vocabulary lexicon increased, and so now I just can't spell bigger words. Like, don't ask me to spell dopaminergic right now. Dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. I can do prefrontal cortex. Yeah, mantequilla. So see, that's not how I was gonna spell it, but it is happening, and so you just get better at spelling simpler words, but even the bigger words. I have misspelled words and grammar in my book and my post, and I do that because now I know it's not gonna stop me from doing anything. All right, so Kevin is about to answer, and the question is, how do you build your confidence? How do you build your confidence? Noah's answer is one day at a time. And my confidence is built through learning. The more I know, the more confident I become. And people will say I have had this bravado-ness out my whole entire life, other than people in elementary school. Middle school forward, they would say, oh, she been like that. But it is literally linked to my knowledge. They say knowledge is power, and I say the application of knowledge is power. And that's where my confidence comes. And what I've also found is the more I learned, the less I needed to have something on. And so, I mean, Flash and razzmatazz, not necessarily anymore, because it's up here. So it don't have to be presented out here anymore. So how do you build your confidence? I build it one neuron at a time in my hippocampus. New neurons being created through neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. By learning continually. Okay. And last question for today is a childhood game. A childhood game. A childhood game. Last video for today. And Sean said, even when reading, I will look up the word if I don't understand them. Yes, Sean, that's how I got through college. And I had a dictionary that I used, and I would look up the word and highlight it. And so if I came back to it, I would know you already looked this word up. And I could never sell back any of my textbooks because I would have to write the meaning of the word in the margin of the page. And I lost that. Well, the movers lost that dictionary one time when I was moving while I was in the military. I wish I still had it, but I still have to look up words, which is why Word of the Day is a playlist. It's a highlight on Instagram, and it's Word of the Day. I use it on Wordplay in my playlist. So I'm constantly looking up new words. I had to look up dopaminergic today, as well as mesolimbic pathway. Constantly doing that. But all right, what is a childhood game? What is a childhood game? I started back doing my resistant bands, and ooh, my shoulder blades are on fire. Red light, green light. Mm-mm. Doom, doom. We played a game. It's always something when you live in the hood. It was called In My Mama's Grocery Store. We all sit on our porch because we had one of the popular houses, and you stand on the line and you would say something in my mama's grocery store, and it's green, and it's red, and then only you knew the answer, so it was kind of on an honor system. But what would happen is the person who guessed it and you would have to run to the tree and tap the tree and run back to the line. And so if you were sitting on the porch and you guessed their person's thing and beat them to the tree and back, then it was your turn to be it. Now, because I was younger than everybody else, I don't know who started In My Mama's Grocery Store, but it was already a game by the time I arrived on the street in kindergarten. So kickball, yes, In My Mama's Grocery Store. And I have not come across anybody else in my lifetime other than the people that lived on that particular 2 blocks worth of Glendale that play In My Mama's Grocery Store. Funny, funny, funny. It's amazing what happens when you have very little, you will still learn how to utilize those games. House, I was the hamster. Got it. Hence, that's why you want an antler chandelier and bearskin rugs. Yes. Okay. You can go ahead if you've answered the last video question for today. You have 3 questions to answer today. What did you learn today? What did you learn about yourself? And what did you learn about curious questions? So, what did you learn today? What did you learn about yourself? And what did you learn about curious questions? Kevin said, Puddle Olympics. Who could jump over basically the biggest puddle of water? Wow. Oh my goodness. And if you fell in, oh, that's South Carolina, but that's Alabama where that red dirt, that red clay is, that mud. That's very hard to get out of your clothes. Who could jump over the biggest puddle of water? Very cool. Puddle Olympics. We did play baseball too. We had a baseball field at the middle school behind us. So I thought that was interesting. African American kids in the hood playing baseball. That's not something that happens because we didn't actually have a basketball or football field. So we played baseball. Somebody had a bat, somebody had gloves, somebody else had a ball. And of course, road bikes. So what did you learn today? What did you learn about yourself? And what did you learn about curious questions? And I think I mentioned this as well. We're going to go back over neural construction zones once Regina returns from her trip. So sometime back half of next week. Because last Wednesday, it was crickets. Like, what? So I was not clear. And if you're thinking, remember, let me know if because the chat could be enabled. I might have to go back out. So if you're thinking about answering, ... brain, thinking emoji, something. I'm thinking, give me a minute, Doc. All right, Sean said, I have learned today, accept yourself as who you are. That is correct. Because you're nobody else. You is you. And your prefrontal cortex, Sean, that's where your personality resides. So being in your prefrontal cortex you will automatically be you. Real leadership over here, you got to be your authentic self. So there is no faking it over here. We are the real deal, Holyfield. Be yourself. You want to be personally accountable and you're not breaking any moral laws or laws, you are welcome. We don't care about religious preferences, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, none of that shit over here at all. Or you don't have to believe in any higher power or entity. Kevin said today that not everyone has pictures of themselves in their home. Lola, by answering curious questions a lot, it gives you the advantage when it's time to answer important questions. I like that, Lola. That's awesome. I didn't even think about it from that perspective. So that's cool. Man, that gave me chills. I learned about the brain asking questions helps the memory. And I learned about myself that I am better at asking questions because I am communicating more effectively and talking about my feelings more. That is correct. Yes, ma'am. I can attest to that. I second that emotion. My other one is above. Yes, you said I learned about the brain asking questions helps the memory. I saw that. And I learned about asking questions makes your brain work better. So yes, ma'am. I saw all three of your answers. I learned that I have curious questions informations. Kevin, myself, I love curious questions. You get that nice dopamine release, the dopaminergic. See, my orthographic process center still is having problems with that. So the dopaminergic reward that takes place, and it allows you to have your natural release. And then you also, because you had to find the answers, you got a little bit of fire and wiring going on with those neurons. And so if you keep asking questions, as Nola mentioned, it's going to strengthen your memory. It's going to strengthen your prefrontal cortex because you have to think about the question, the answer, and it just allows you to grow neurologically. And you can ask chat. One thing about ChatGPT, they have the advice button on there as well, and it will give you advice on what you need. Pretty sound advice, if I do say so myself. I've used it, and it's very effective, and it scours the internet quickly to get the answers, because even when Chat and I were talking about me and curious questions, it literally was using my information. Do you want me to give you a transcript of morning mental workouts and all of that? So it's very effective. And so I have found that, and then I'm going to say this and then I'll close. I was scared to ask Chat about me and my thought process because for so many years, people have told me, yeah, but, nah, but. So I found myself hesitating, and then challenge yourself and take risk. Failure is not an option. That's why I started asking Chat, well, what did Dr. Donna say about this particular situation? Because of the amount of information that I have put on the internet, there should be some evidence. And I applied to I guess a research journal online, and they told me that my research didn't meet the criterion to be a person that could be featured on their online resources. And so I was like, fuck y'all. That was my initial response. No, what you submitted isn't actual real research. All right, motherfuckers. That's my evil villain story. It ain't real research. Bet. So the first time I went in chat to try to see that email response was, but they told me I could still look at everybody else's research on the platform. I just couldn't feature mine. All right, bet. Roger that. Challenge accepted. Ha 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 ha. And so that's why in chat I was like, well, they said my research ain't valid. So shit. But according to chat, I'm the shit now. Oh, you want this? She said this. She has so many. I was like, okay. And the Science of Getting Rich said that they say, no, it ain't big enough. So cool. There you have it. Kevin said, yes. Kevin said, curious questions opens up your dialogue and can be a great icebreaker. It can, especially for people who are trying to get to know other people, whether it's employees, employer, whether you decide that you're going to start dating, you be like, hold up, let me ask you this. Because I was, well, so what do you like to do? No, these questions are going to let you know if you're dealing with a dummy or not. They like, yeah, I don't even really be trying to think all like that. Nope, got it. That's why I just do coffee. I can get the hell out of there very quickly. So I'll be in the bathroom. No, never done that before. Okay, bad Dr. Donna. The point is that I was hesitant because I was rejected from the scholarly group of people that are because it's publish or perish. I told y'all I Googled the number one neuroscientist, and what made that person the number one neuroscientist is because they have more published works and their works has been cited more than anybody else. And that's why they're the number one neuroscientist in the world. Stupid ass criterion, but whatevs. Moving on. Nobody thought that online school was a good idea when the University of Phoenix creator tried to start the University of Phoenix. All of the colleges, the physical colleges, tried to shut it down, almost shut it down, and now everybody's a Phoenix, and now you have all these other online universities. So somebody got to be the first through the door to disrupt the system, and that is me. So me and Chat will continue to converse about what I have or don't have available online. Disrupting, didn't make any risk taking. Okay, so thank you very much, Kevin. Again, welcome back home safely. And yeah, I think the only thing that I would recommend that you watch if you have time, because you probably got to catch up on a lot of stuff, is the emotional regulation that was yesterday. So the emotional regulation, and then the self-actualization live, because that was on the 3rd. So those are 2 pieces of information that I believe will be value added for you. Watch them incrementally as you see time permits. So it was from the 3rd, self-actualization, and then yesterday, not yesterday. Yeah, no, keep your word. No, emotional regulation. I'm sorry. Yesterday, emotional regulation, because we're on the 7th. So the 3rd and the 6th, those would be the 2, just to bring you up to speed. Everything else was just information, real leader principles, but those 2 will have value for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time that you've invested in your neurological growth and development. As always, God willing, higher power, and the universe, I will be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, safe space, different brain t-shirt. You all go off and have a brain-tastic day. Take care.